Welcome, soldier. You are about to go onto the front lines to fight and aid our allies in the war effort. Strike our enemies hard and strike them right in their hearts. But most importantly, eat your spam.
Spam. Spam? No, spam. Spiced ham. 6 simple ingredients, 1 tasty slab of meat. The simple slab of meat was introduced by Hormel Foods in 1937 in the wake of the Great Depression. Economic peril, unemployment, and devastating market crashes plagued the nation and left millions of people in poverty and hunger. Many lost their homes and were relocated to Hoovervilles, dingy towns built on the rusty iron of car frames, scraps, and crates. When people were struggling to find something to eat, Spam was introduced as an inexpensive meat that costs pretty much nothing, lasts long, and can be stored easily. Spam didn't need to be refrigerated, didn't need to be cooked, and only cost the average American 25 cents when people made an average of $60 to $74 a month. Spam helped fill the bellies of the hungry workers until the outbreak of World War II, which aided the recovery of the U.S. economy. Since then, Spam has had a lengthy history of helping hungry soldiers and citizens alike. And yet, eating Spam every day gets kinda tiring. Weeks of the same flavor of salted meat, combined with whatever we had left to give us a little extra energy. Without Spam, I don't know when my next meal will be. Desperation? Hunger? With desperation comes the need to be creative and seek other solutions. How do you satiate your desires while you survive? People get crafty when they're hungry, more impatient, impulsive, indulgent. They seek solutions where the nearest one is not available. In that desperation comes the birth of creative dishes. Did you ever wonder how hungry the first person had to be to eat a lobster? What used to be considered trash food for the poor is now a luxury delicacy enjoyed around the world. New combinations of food are born from hunger, human hunger and desire. How did Spam become a worldwide phenomenon? And how did it aid in the birth of cultural staples during times of great hunger? To start, we go to the battlefields of World War II, an environment that Spam will get to know intimately. To understand the impact of Spam in the Second World War, 133 million cans of Spam were sent overseas between 1940 and 1945, with 65% of consumers of all Hormel food products being soldiers, and 90% of the company's shipments going towards government expenditures. Hormel wasn't just a consumer product anymore. It was now the USA's most important supplier of food to the military personnel. Spam was so widespread in the military, soldiers began to get sick of eating these meaty blocks and wrote angry letters to the company. An activity so notorious, President Eisenhower acknowledged it in a letter to Hormel after his presidency. With the U.S. suiting up for war and stationing troops in Hawaii after the devastating attacks on Pearl Harbor, Spam eventually made its way around the island. A mess hall staple, soldiers and citizens have made their acquaintance with the vibrant blue cans during times of food scarcity. A versatile meat that can be paired with anything, is cheap, and lasts a long time for citizens. Food preservation has its limits being so isolated from the rest of America, which made Spam's long shelf life desirable for Hawaiian citizens scrounging for something to eat. An unfortunate reality is the fact that Japanese internment camps were also held on the island of Hawaii. The forced incarceration of Japanese Americans after the hysteria of the attacks on Pearl Harbor caused the forced relocation of thousands of Japanese Americans to internment camps scattered throughout the west coast of America. Bare shacks below the living standard of people, and the hostile treatment faced by Japanese prisoners, alongside having to adhere to food rationing, made an already hostile environment harder to cope with. For many Japanese Americans, Spam became a large part of their diet out of necessity. Being one of the only cheap proteins in the camp, people had to get creative when using the canned meat, thus birthing the assumed origins of Spam musubi. A slice of Spam and a handful of rice, wrapped with a strip of seaweed. This simple dish gave people a sense of comfort in times of rationing and mistreatment. Years after the war, acclimating to peacetime and getting used to everyday life again, Spam musubi and Spam itself continue to hold the title as a Hawaiian staple. Although the dish has some regrettable origins, Spam and Spam musubi continue to be enjoyed in Hawaii today, with an estimated 7 million cans eaten per year in Hawaii alone. For some, the dish embodies a simple comfort food, and for others, it remains a memory of American betrayal and desperation. And yet for others, Spam also embodied freedom. December 7th, 1941. Hours after the attack of Pearl Harbor, Manila, Philippines, was also bombed by Imperial Japanese forces. The Philippines has been under U.S. control since 1898, after the signing of the Treaty of Paris. By the time the U.S. established control over the Manila government, the Philippines has already been ravaged by war with Spain, igniting another struggle for independence before ultimately falling under American control. With the Japanese attack forcing the U.S. out of the Philippines, the archipelago would have to endure the savage reign of Imperial Japan. Death marches, prisons, torture, murder, unspeakable war crimes that I'm not even comfortable saying out loud. The citizens of the Philippines were subjected to the horrors of Japanese rule until 4 years later, in 1945. With the Pacific Theater nearing its end and the Allied forces making progress, U.S. occupation resumed in the Philippines as they fought to regain control of the archipelago. After 4 years of horror, 4 years of torture and starvation for the Philippine people, cans of Spam helped citizens believe in a brighter future. Due to the exhausted distaste for the canned meat, American GIs began to distribute and trade the cans to starving Filipinos who had endured the Japanese reign. A dozen eggs would net you many cans of Spam in return. Those blue cans reignited hope in the Filipino people. With no shortage of Spam from American soldiers, the salty loaf was happily accepted in the Filipino culture after the conclusion of the war. For many, those cans of Spam represented the American dream, hope for a better future with no struggle. After enduring the horrors of Japanese occupation, Filipinos enjoyed their canned rations paired with a plate of fried rice and eggs. Spam Silog was born, a hearty Filipino breakfast dish that combines traditional silog, fried rice and eggs, with the Philippines' newly discovered protein, Spam. Due to the lack of options during wartime, pairing the savory meat with anything you could get your hands on was common. Over the years, the combination of rice, eggs, and Spam became a popular Filipino staple, born from struggle, wartime rationing, and American occupation. While the first silog was introduced in the 1980s, the Philippines' adoration of Spam continued to hold its weight many years later. What began as a dish out of necessity became a homely comfort dish for many to enjoy in their homes. Some eat without the melancholic memories of struggle and violence, enjoying the dish for what it is. Where Spam goes, struggle follows. Tracing the roots of America's favorite canned meat shows a trail of despair and hunger. Although the iconic blue can might trigger fond memories of American hope, its wartime history makes it hard to deny the tears and horror that came with war and occupation. Despite the mixed history, people still found a way to make it work, using the picture of American ideals to gain enough nutrition to survive another day. Creativity and determination kept these people alive, and their efforts continued to be enjoyed in peace.